So hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Renata Kalniūnienė, Marketing Project Manager at Softneta. I am going to moderate this webinar. And today we have a joint event together with our partners, Dicom Systems. And this webinar will showcase our collaboration with Dicom Systems and integration between our products, Unifier platform, and MedDream Viewer. So the speakers will be Vytautas Baublys, CEO and co-founder of Softneta, and our guest speaker, Florent Saint-Clair, Chief Operating Officer at Dicom Systems. And as you see, this webinar is being recorded. So after webinar, you will receive the link and presentation file of this webinar. Agenda: introduction of long-time partnership of Softneta and Dicom Systems. And our guest speaker, Florent, will present solutions which Dicom System can provide. Also present Unifier platform and the use cases of it. And show integration demonstration between Unifier platform and MedDream Viewer. And in the end, I'm going to collect all the questions and we will try to answer them. So please write them, your questions in the chat section during all the webinar. So Vytautas Baublys, our CEO, will start by introducing our long-time collaboration between Dicom Systems.
Hello, good day, everyone. So I'm very happy to present our long-time partner, Dicom System, and especially Florent. So we partnering with Dicom System more than 10 years, and it was one of the first our partners around the world. So I'm very happy to present this solution to our partners, which is around the world. So if you need some similar solutions, I really recommend to look deeply in the solutions which Dicom System produce, and you can save a lot of time and efforts by bringing these solutions into your portfolio, in my opinion. And today I hope you will spend this half and a little bit more time enjoyable seeing the solution, understanding what Dicom System does and how it could help your businesses or your hospitals to moderate your Dicom flow, improve the workflows. And today is a main topic is just to try to explain what Dicom System does for our partners, because everyone's probably know very well the MedDream technology, how it works, how it could be integrated. So primary focus today will be on our guests, and I hope you will have courage to ask them good questions, and I believe Florent can answer them very well. But in case, because today we not have all the team around us, if some questions would be too difficult, so we promise to answer them by emails and also contact you directly then. So I'm proudly share now word to Florent, and I hope you will enjoy the Unifier presentation, and then let's go to questions.
Okay, thank you, Vytautas. So Florent, word to you.
Thank you, Vytautas. Thank you, Renata. It's a pleasure to present with you today. Thank you for having us as your guests. I'm going to share my desktop in just a moment. It's Renata, if you want to stop sharing your desktop, I'll take care of mine. Please confirm once you can see it. You should be able to see it now.
Yes.
So I'm Florent Saint-Clair. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Dicom Systems. We're thrilled to partner with Softneta pretty much all around the world. We have customers installed in all 4 of the major continents that are using our technology and use the MedDream Viewer as a backup. This is the use case that we're going to go over quite a bit today. But I wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown on the history of Dicom Systems and how we came to be as a platform. We were born in 2008. Dicom Systems is a platform that was born out of our previous experience with the US military. As you can see on this presentation slide, we used to deploy technology in Iraq and Afghanistan, and also in Germany in Launch Tool, and in various continental US hospitals for the military, both actually for any of the branches of the military. We worked with the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force to move massive amounts of medical images over satellite communication between the Middle East, Europe, and the continental US. So you can imagine those were very austere conditions, very difficult, low bandwidth, high latency networks to move a lot of medical images to support the medical mission for US soldiers that were wounded during combat conditions. And so before we started this company, we had this experience of taking care of workflows in very difficult environments. And so it taught us quite a bit about what works and what doesn't work in terms of enterprise imaging. And the primary lesson we drew from this experience with the military was that PACS vendors do a very good job of taking care of the needs of physicians when it comes to the viewer, when it comes to the tools, when it comes to the workflows specifically related to reading images. However, the back end was typically left to their own devices, right? So you would have PACS administrators, IT directors, network admins who were expected to perform miracles with very few tools available to them to fulfill that mission. And so we decided to focus Dicom Systems on being the advocate for the PACS administrators, for the IT people, the network admins. And so we work in conjunction with all the PACS. We're vendor neutral, right? So after 15 years, you can imagine we have a tremendous amount of experience working with most of the PACS vendors out there. We have a handful that actually resell our technology, such as Sectra, Oracle with Cerner, Infinite. They're all reselling our technology in conjunction with ours because we are not a PACS company, right? Our job is to take care of the back-end workflows. And so we focus our mission on these various things. So you can think of Dicom Systems as an interoperability platform and a workflow engine, right? So our job is to ensure that all of the various elements of your ecosystem, your modalities, your PACS, your VNA, your 3D workstations, your CD burning stations, anything that has an AE title, an IP address, and a port number that we can connect to, we connect them and we make them talk to each other elegantly. And so when it comes to what types of protocols, it's all the usual ones that you expect to find in the enterprise imaging world. Dicom, HL7, Fire now, Dicom Web, and a handful of IHE profiles that enable us to perform some of these workflow tasks around the world, right? IHE is much more prevalent in places like Europe and Canada. So things like XDS, XDSI, you're not going to find a whole lot of it in the US, but outside of the US, it's been adopted pretty widely. And so our job is to ensure that we allow you to do intelligent routing of all your medical images, all your HL7 traffic. You're able to do Dicom modality work list. We can proxy work list. We can proxy query retrieve. These are all the functions that you would normally be able to do in a PACS, but PACS vendors don't typically provide that level of interoperability because typically they want you to just stay within their platform to manage all your workflows. And so we work in the background to help you enable these workflows. In a handful of cases, such as the US Army, we also act as the system of record, the VNA, for all of the dental images. For example, in San Antonio, Texas, there's a big Army base called Fort Sam Houston, and they host actually all of their dental images in their dental packs in that Army base. And so our job for them is to gather all of those medical images that are created around the world. They actually run about 150 dental clinics around the globe, including on some Navy ships. And all those images have to end up in Fort Sam Houston. And we are the workflow engine that performs those functions. You can deploy us on-prem, you can deploy us in the cloud, you can use us as disaster recovery as a service or business continuance as a service. And of course, in the past few years, we've also performed an increasing amount of pretty large-scale de-identification projects for machine learning and clinical trials work. So annually, we process massive numbers of images across our installed base, right? We're in the US, we're in Canada, we're all over Europe, we're in Australia, we're in New Zealand, and we are now also in the Middle East, in Dubai. We're proud to have partnered with StatRad, a group out of San Diego that's actually doing teleradiology reading for American Hospital Dubai, and we are proud to power those workflows in the background. So the types of customers we serve are, pretty widespread. We have a large number of academic medical centers, such as Stanford, University of Southern California, Keck School of Medicine, Cleveland Clinic, Nicholas Children's. These are all large academic medical centers, as well as, regular hospitals. We also serve some of the largest IDNs on the planet, such as HCA. As you know, HCA operates 172 hospitals in the US. They also have a presence in the UK. And we also serve Kaiser Permanente across the US. Our software is deployed in all of their hospitals across the US. So in terms of the integration, you can imagine after 15 years in business, almost 16 years now, we have had experience with all of the PACS vendors that are out there, including the ones that have been absorbed by others, right? There used to be one on this slide called CareStream. Well, that's now part of Philips. There used to be McKesson, which is now rebranded as Change Healthcare. Cerner used to be called Cerner, right? Now they're called Oracle. So there's a tremendous amount of consolidation in the industry. Whatever PACS vendor you're using, chances are we've had a lot of experience integrating with them successfully. Then there's also EHR integrations, right? In the US, we have a lot of integrations with Epic. As you know, Epic has sort of taken over the world, but we still have quite a few Meditech and Cerner operations out there that we integrate with. So these are going to be all your HL7 and Fire connections to power all these enterprise imaging workflows. So deployment options are super important. As you know, in enterprise imaging, most of the vendors out there will typically want to be in charge of your hardware deployments and at a pretty high price, manage that for you. Our job is not to dictate how you operate. Our job is to fit within your existing workflows. So if you choose to work with Google or Azure or AWS in the cloud, so be it. You can actually go to their marketplaces today and actually spin up our router, and then you just need to license it. Most of our implementations, especially in the US and Canada now, are VMware based. We have a handful of Hyper-V. We also do Zen virtualization. We have Nutanix. So whatever virtualization layer you're currently running for your operation, we can provide a different OVA or VMDK for you to download and deploy our appliance. So use cases are plentiful. Just imagine the sheer number of use cases that exist out there in medical images. So our primary role when we created this platform, it was based on our experience with the US military, and it was to move images between the place where they get generated, meaning the modalities, possibly the PACS, and the teleradiology groups or radiology groups that read those images. That was our original mission. And since then, we've developed quite a few other capabilities that let you run a large-scale enterprise imaging workflow. And so it doesn't matter how many modalities you have, we can do enterprise Dicom modality work list. It doesn't matter how many radiology groups you work with, so for example, HCA is mostly outsourcing their radiology services to various groups and different regions. And so in some cases, we work with RAD partners to integrate with HCA. In others, we work with Reyes. We work with a variety of groups around the US that provide services for their customers across the US. That being said, there are a lot of intramural workflows, a lot of needs for workflows that don't require remote connections. Those would be on-prem, right? So the ability to connect an on-prem to a cloud infrastructure is becoming more and more prevalent. We do this, for example, with UC Irvine, University of California in Irvine, as well as University of California, San Diego. They have their on-prem packs, but they also have their cloud packs, right? So some of the workflows, some of the reading takes place in the cloud, some of the reading takes place on-prem. Our job is to make sure that you can interchangeably do your workflows on-prem or in the cloud. There's, we don't dictate how you do that. Increasingly, many of our workflows involve a parallel AI development use case, right? There's companies like SegMed out there. There's companies like Concert AI. There's companies like Blackford Analysis. All of these workflows involving some kind of a cloud AI deployment, whether it's orchestration or just plain, sending images to an algorithm for machine learning purposes. We do massive amounts of de-identification of those images, and then we share those images either on-prem or in the cloud. So a typical external imaging workflow, right? I call that extramural workflow, will involve either connecting a hub to a remote facility via VPN, or if there is no VPN, you can do all of the same workflows over HTTPS or TLS. So the way a workflow typically starts is that an order will be placed in the EHR, will receive an HL7 order, will query retrieve for priors on the local packs, will receive the new images from the modalities, will send the DICOM over the wire to the hub where they will be read in the packs, and then a radiologist is dictating a report and whatever dictation system they have, whether it's PowerScribe, M-Modal, Dolby Systems, doesn't matter. We receive an HL7 results message, and we're able to connect that result to the place where the order was placed. And so you now have a full bidirectional DICOM and HL7 workflow enabled with a remote facility. So I briefly talked about AI orchestration. So the way we do this is mindful of the fact that physicians don't like to be late, right? They don't like to have to wait for their images. And one of the problems that we found in AI orchestration is that many of the algorithms are deployed in the cloud. And when you deploy an algorithm in the cloud, there's going to be a few things you need to think about. How do you connect? Is there an HTTPS or VPN connection? Do you need to de-identify the images? Do you need to have a BAA in the US, right? Or if you're thinking about GDPR in Europe, do you need to have some kind of agreement in order to use that cloud infrastructure to do anything? And one of the issues we ran into is that of latency. So when images are flowing through the Dicom Systems router, our job is typically to just send those images to the PACS or the VNA. But with the advent of AI orchestration, we now have an opportunity to take a look at all those DICOM headers, and those DICOM headers are an opportunity to say, I have an algorithm in Docker number 3 that needs to post-process those images. So Dicom Systems will share the study instance UID with that Docker, with that AI, and then we'll share the metadata via Keto, the pixel data via Wado, and we'll receive results back via STO. So we're making full use of the Dicom web standard to do AI orchestration, and it could be AI orchestration in the cloud or on-prem. It doesn't matter to us. We can Dockerize the AI within our server, or we can connect to a server that's living next to us in the same infrastructure. In all cases, at this time at least, because of latency issues, we advocate deploying your AI as much as possible on-prem in order to avoid frustration on the part of the physicians who may be waiting for their images or their results. So let's talk about results. Different algorithms produce different types of results, right? Some of them will send you a Dicom structured report. Well, that structured report may need to be routed directly to the dictation system to auto-populate a report. If it's an overlay, right, some kind of presentation state in the images, those need to be sent with the images to the PACS for viewing. In some cases, we'll have an HL7 result or some kind of a FHIR result that needs to go straight to the EHR. So our job as a router is to let you do that flexibly. So it doesn't matter what AI your physicians are telling you they want to adopt. Of course, you should run that AI through scrutiny to make sure they have FDA clearance, that they have a CE mark, that they can actually operate legally for you to augment your workflows. But if you do have all of those boxes checked, you can use Dicom Systems to orchestrate these workflows. So what I wanted to talk about specifically in partnership with Softneta is that our customers, when they're using our platform, they're not using us as a PACS, right? Except that they know that all of their images are being run through the router. So what happens when that happens is that the physicians know that if their PACS is down for whatever reason, chances are the most recent images are available in the Unifier. And so you don't expect physicians to actually log into this user interface because it's got a lot going on. This is our study list for PACS administrators. But thanks to MedDream, they can actually log in and have a list that looks more like a PACS list, right? So when you're using the Unifier, you can actually deploy, thanks to Dicom Web, a separate system where images can be viewed in this system that is more physician friendly. Now, of course, you can always, be logged in here and say, I want to view, let me see. I want to view my images in this viewer. So the viewer itself is always available even if you have a downtime PACS event, right? So if you have downtime on the PACS, whether it's planned or unplanned, the physicians know that they can always have access to their most recent images in this viewer, which makes a big difference, right? Because now you're not stuck without a viewer, which means you can actually do a wet read while somebody is reviving the PACS, right? So these images, this is our old user interface. This is our brand new user interface. Just so you want to take a look at that. The same MedDream Viewer is available in this environment for you to actually see your images. So it doesn't matter if your PACS is down, your physicians always have access to a work list. And I wanted to point out that Dicom Web is a really big enabler for us to be able to do this, because without Dicom Web, it may take us weeks or months to do an integration with a new viewer, whereas MedDream actually lives within our code. So when we're launching those images from our user interface, you're not having to go to the cloud unless you've deployed our server in the cloud, because these images are accessible directly from the cache of the Dicom Systems router. So local cache, Dicom Web allows you to go take a look at your images in real time. So Vytautas, I don't know how I'm doing on time here, but I wanted to pause here because I've been sharing a lot of information about the Dicom Systems platform, and I wanted to leave the floor open for some questions. If there are any, please do so at this time.
Thank you very much, Florent. I believe it was really enjoyable to see your product and listen about capabilities. So maybe few more questions from my side while we go to questions. As I know, because we have plenty of partners which do PACS systems, which do the information risk systems, or such type of the products. So maybe you already shortly explained what you could route the data, you could pass the data, but can you also like adjust the patient data, especially on the importing? For example, when patient come with CDs or USBs of data and you need to morph the data, but it would be equal. This questions often comes to our partners and we discussing. That's why if you have something about this, I would be very appreciated if you could share with our partners the ideas.
Absolutely. Are you seeing my desktop? I think I'm still sharing.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So we have a module that we call Patient Match, and this is precisely for this type of use case, as you mentioned, where a patient comes in with an outside image, or you're using maybe Life Image or Ombra Health or some other cloud sharing platform. Let's see, PowerShare is the one that's used quite a bit out there with in conjunction with PowerScribe, the dictation system from Microsoft now. And so those outside images are coming in to the Unifier appliance. Using HL7, we're going to look locally to our HL7 repository and see if we know anything about this patient, if we've seen them before. In parallel to that, we also do the same query to the local EHR, right? So if you have Epic or Cerner or Meditech or whatever, we'll actually do a query to see if we know this patient by any other MRN. And if we do, we will get this information back in, transform the MRN with the new information, which means we'll have 100% match, which lets us auto route to the images to the PACS. In most cases, it's not 100% match, as you know, right? You're going to have multiple possible matches or even no match. So when you have multiple matches, you'll be presented with a QA work list, and a human can get involved on that point and point out which of the possible hits is the correct one, reconcile the record, and then push to PACS. And if you have no match, this is a workflow we do quite a bit with Epic. We'll send an HL7 message to Epic called an ORR, and the ORR message will request a new MRN. And so when we receive the new MRN for this net new patient, we'll be able to morph the MRN, the patient name, whatever it may be, into what will be applicable at this facility and will be absorbed into the PACS correctly, right? So one of the big problems is, PACS will have a lot of exceptions. Exception handling is a big deal because your staff is spending a lot of time reconciling records. And so we've been able to minimize, and I'm careful to say minimize, not eliminate, the problem of having to manually reconcile records. There is no vendor out there that can pretend that they 100% auto match and push to PACS. There's always going to be a handful, sometime anywhere from 90 to 95% could be potentially automated, but you're going to have anywhere from 10 to 20% of the cases that still need to be manually matched. Does that answer your question?
Yes. This is ideally what I see, what some of our partners really asking, and I always point to Dicom Systems saying that this could be a solution for their problems, and I believe this is answers very well the question. One more question is regarding anonymization, especially for these our AI companies, which is using MedDream for training and learning. Maybe you could also a little bit give more detailed ideas, because these AI companies could be very interested also to collaborate with Dicom Systems to receive the data or for clinical trials. This could be very useful. So this use case would be also very interesting.
Absolutely. I would say the largest use case we've had for de-identification was with HSS, which is Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. It's a large specialty orthopedic hospital that wrote a contract with an AI company to license their images and train some algorithms. And so the challenge given to us was we need to share these images quickly because it's a large project, right? There was 5.6 million exams. So you can imagine you multiply that by the number of images in each exam. So there was a lot of images to de-identify. And this was both metadata and pixel data, because some of the images obviously were ultrasound. And as you know, some especially older devices, tend to embed PHI at the pixel level. And so we need to intervene both at the metadata and pixel levels. So what we did, and we were fortunate in that first large project that we are closely partnered with Sectra as a PACS company, because they allowed us to intervene at the volume level in their storage. Imagine if you need to move 5.6 million exams via Dicom query retrieve. It could take a long time, especially if the PACS can only do, one request at a time, that it cannot multi-thread the requests. It's going to take a long time. Not only that, it will probably impact your clinical operations because of how long it takes for those images to be queried and retrieved. And so what we did was obtain a list of all the accession numbers that they wanted to de-identify and share with this AI vendor. And with that list, which we uploaded into our server, we scanned all of their volumes for those accession numbers, and we imported them directly into our primary Dicom Systems Unifier for de-identification. And we also added an extra precautionary step, which was quality assurance. So our customer, HSS, was very conscious of the fact that they didn't want any PHI to be shared with the outside world. So how do you make sure of that, right? So first, you need to de-identify the images, and then you need to run the de-identified images through a quality check to make sure that the most important elements of metadata and pixel data potentially do not still contain PHI. Once you've done that, you can now share over HTTPS, or in the case of AWS, I don't know if any of you have ever used a Snowball device. It's a device that you can fill up with data and physically ship to the cloud vendor. Then they plug in that Snowball device into AWS, and now the images are in the cloud without having to use up all your network resources, right? So not everybody uses it, but if your project is a large-scale de-identification project that needs to quickly share images with an AI vendor, chances are we can help. The best way for us to help is if the PACS vendor lets us actually scan their volumes for the images that we need to de-identify. Otherwise, we can always use the query retrieve method. That's always available, but as you know, that's a lot slower.
Yes, but if I understood correctly also, Florent, if it would be on the fly, like clinical trial, where you're collecting daily new cases, it would be even more easy because you can connect practically to any PACS system by Dicom query. You would receive, identify, upload, and this could be continuous work. So yes, this is definitely, in my opinion, what companies need to look more deeply when they search for partners for help to enable these workflows. And as I said, our company have long history with Dicom system, and I can say only good words about the work quality, product quality. Another very interesting thing which I like to state about our integration. So we did, most of our partners, we know that they can deploy our system near a base system and actually integrate through the various methods. But how we did with Dicom system integration, as already Florent explained it. So Dicom system can, by few commands, run, deploy our product and activate it very, very speedy. So basically any Dicom system deployment can easily enable the MedDream in probably few hours to be workable. So this is also how they think about everything. So they think that the workflow must be very simple, very fast enabled, and based on the standard. What Softneta experienced by working with Dicom systems. So I believe this is a point which I wanted to showcase, because I know my colleagues' questions about similar products which we're facing. And Renata, maybe you can share the question list which we already have.
Okay.
And ask us.
Okay, so well, I'm going to read the questions. Do you provide the PAC system? It's the Dicom Systems.
Yeah, the answer is pretty binary. We do not. We're not a PACS vendor. We power workflows, enterprise imaging workflows in the background. We like to consider ourselves the plumbing behind the wall that nobody looks at, but it's very important, right? When you turn on the faucet, you expect the water to flow at the right temperature in the right place. Our job is to make sure your images are flowing at the right place at the right time, right? So we are the plumbing. The PACS is the front end. It's the faucet. It's the sink, right? It's the user interface. The second question there, how do we deploy our
Florent,
solutions?
if I understood, for the downtime scenarios, you can be temporary PAC system for the clinic in downtime scenarios.
In downtime scenario, absolutely. This was actually the first major use case for us to use MedDream, was for one of our customers in Ohio that had routine downtime with their PACS vendor and was very frustrated and needed a solution to continue reading during times of downtime, whether it was planned or unplanned, right? So their physicians became trained to know that they could log in directly into, with LDAP or Active Directory. Their login credentials would let them go into the Dicom Systems infrastructure to view their images, even if they couldn't access them in their PACS. So absolutely, it's just we're not a PACS vendor, but we do enable PACS
I know
workflows.
I know the latest our installations even allow the users automatically from information system switch to backup system if the main is down. So when they clicked open, so it's automatically opens if the main system is malfunctioning. So this is very high integrations with Dicom system does. So Renata, to next question.
Okay, thank you. Please explain, how do you deploy your solutions on premises, cloud, or hybrid?
So the answer is all of the above. Most of our implementations are virtualized on-prem, but we have an increasing number of cloud and hybrid organizations. And so the fact that our technology stack is an appliance, it's a Linux-based appliance. Right now we're on CentOS 9. We also have quite a few customers on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, for support purposes and licensing. But the fact that our system is an appliance with everything included in it is very easy to deploy. You have your OS layer, your database layer, your web services, all within the same server. So when you download and install a VMDK, or when you turn it on in the cloud, you don't need to install the OS separately or the database separately. It's all built in already. So that's how we deploy our solutions, mostly virtualized, but it's up to you whether you want to do it on-prem or in the cloud or in a hybrid fashion.
Okay, thank you. Another one, how do you work with teleradiology clinics or remote areas or imaging centers?
So that's a very good question. I mean, that was our original mission for Dicom Systems when we created the platform, was to enable remote imaging operations. We have a lot of very small clinics in the middle of Alaska. I don't know if any of you can imagine the Alaskan landscape, but it's very difficult to access some of those remote areas. And in many cases, those small clinics only have a part-time technologist who also moonlights as an IT person. And so if you have a single ultrasound or maybe an X-ray and an ultrasound, and you have patients, even if it's only 1 or 2 studies a week, those patients still need to have their images read in a hub. And so we have a lot of very remote clinics in Hawaii and in Alaska, and even in remote parts of Montana and Idaho and, parts of the US that are very difficult to access. We give them that access. And the fact that it's a very simple solution to deploy makes it a lot easier, right? Because you can ship a server, plug it into the network, assuming you have a network, of course. But if you don't even have a network closet, then that's a different problem, right? We can't even help them.
But Florent, also we need to point that is not only VPN needed. You also have this possibility to through HTTPS upload the data. So it's much easier to manage the networks and you don't need to have really skilled IT people to launch the connectivity.
Correct. So those are the two ways that you can connect, right? If you already have a VPN between a hub and a remote site, then we can do all of our work over the VPN. That's easy. You don't need to fix it because it's working. But in some cases, either a VPN is not a possibility, they don't want to deploy one, or it's very unstable. The ability to do all those workflows over HTTPS or TLS is very important, and we enable that.
Okay, thank you. So another one, how do you deploy AI solutions for imaging?
So the AI orchestration question is always in flux, right? I like to say that there is a tsunami of technology coming at the industry. You know, you cannot go to a large show like ECR or RSNA without being bombarded or submerged with AI vendors. There are so many of them out there, some of which have very good technology, some of whom you don't even have time for them because they don't have, you know, real technology. You know, it's very difficult to be able to decide between an AI vendor that works really well, that has a high percentage of success rate, you know, anywhere from 90 to 95% successful detection rate. You still have quite a bit of false positives and false negative results out there. But for those vendors that are very reliable, and there's quite a few out there, right? We are partnered with some of them. The ability to run an algorithm within our server as a Docker is very attractive. So those are the two things that we ask of our vendors. Number one, can we Dockerize your technology within our server, make it a part of the server image? Number two, do you communicate over Dicom Web? Because evidently we can do a lot over standard DIMZ Dicom communication, right? cfind, cmove, cget, but it's a lot more efficient, just like we integrate with the MedDream Viewer over Dicom Web. It's much quicker and much more elegant to be able to connect with an AI vendor over Dicom Web than it is over Dicom. And so that is how we prefer to do AI deployments, right? Please Dockerize and please be able to do Dicom Web communications. If you cannot do either of those, yeah, go ahead.
But Florent, as understood, your system even directly could provide even a hybrid scheme where some AI is deployed locally on Docker, some is in the cloud, and you communicate through the Dicom Web API with these AI vendors, which is in cloud, and you can orchestrate everything what is in cloud, what is on premises, and provide results.
Absolutely. We can interchangeably do those things, whether the workflow is being run on-prem or in the cloud. The biggest difference is, do I need to do de-identification of the images before I share them with the cloud? Or can I just use it, right? And typically any hospital in their right mind, given all the hacking that's happening out there, would want their images to be de-identified before they leave the hospital perimeter. And so we typically prefer to do on-prem because of that, but we're perfectly capable of doing cloud workflow for AI orchestration. It's just a matter of workflow design, right? We need to design the workflow with that vendor to ensure that we don't introduce latency in the reading workflow. That's the most important part. If we introduce latency, the physicians will not adopt the technology.
Correct. So
Okay,
Renata,
thank you. Are there any quality assurance standards you recommend?
So, you know, the regulatory side of things is it's a difficult thing to navigate, right? Especially for AI vendors. For what we do, we're considered a class 1 device because we do not create images and we do not fundamentally change the images. But we are in the process of getting our class 2 device classification to update our CE mark. And we are in the process of getting our ISO 27001 certification. The FDA standards, the CE mark, these are all precautionary, right? You can never 100% know that the quality of the product that you're using has been run through all the quality checks you can imagine. There's always use cases that introduce vulnerability, but you have to rely on some kind of standard, right? So the FDA is currently in charge of taking a look at all those AI vendors and making sure that they apply the same standards to them as a medical device, as a standard medical device. Typically, it's going to be a class 2 device, right? Because it's class 3 would be much more invasive. But those are the QA standards that I would recommend ensuring when you're looking at any vendor, whether it's a PACS vendor or an AI vendor, is what quality standards do they conform to? ISO, CE mark, FDA, those are very important questions to ask.
Okay, and another question. Give us an idea about the pricing licensing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, I just want to say, Florent, that typically we never speak about pricing during our, because this is, we know that it's quite private information. We can answer on the emails, the pricings. And of course, each of our partners can contact Dicom System directly for pricings and discuss about it. But maybe about your licensing, you can comment not just about price, but how you license your product, how easy to get licensed, and is it possible to get like remotely, or how you can distribute it?
No, you actually have to buy a plane ticket and fly to San Francisco and meet with us in person to buy the license and write us a check, and then we go to the bank together. And it's licensing is very straightforward. First of all, we are Linux based, right? So pricing, even though we're not going to share specific pricing in this meeting, pricing is much more approachable because you don't have to worry about costly and difficult to manage Microsoft licenses, Oracle licenses, all of those things. Unless you're on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, in which case you're spending money on Red Hat with IBM, right? So licensing is a capital purchase of our license. We do not license our technology as a service. So what that means is that it's very straightforward, right? It's a very traditional software licensing model where you purchase the software, we deploy the software, it's under a 1-year warranty. So customer care is 100% included in the first year, and starting in the second, third, fourth year and thereafter, you're on the customer care contract for license renewals and for customer service. Technical support is 24/7. We only have one level of technical support. Our customer operations are typically mission critical, therefore we have to be available 24/7. So in a handful of cases, we do enterprise licenses that are more like a subscription. So if you have a very large scale implementation where it's very important for you to be able to have a predictable pricing for each incremental new install, then we can negotiate an enterprise license that makes it a lot more approachable and easier to manage. We do that with large customers like Kaiser Permanente, HCA, Stanford Healthcare. We have some customers that prefer an enterprise license. But mostly the pricing is going to be contingent on what are you specifically trying to do with this technology. It's not a cookie cutter, right? Typically, you're going to have a router in a high availability configuration. So you can have 2 machines, 2 virtual machines in high availability configuration, and you will have various modules enabled on top of it, such as HL7, tag morphing, pulling priors, proxying, load balancing. All of those things are modules that you can license on top of the platform. So every install is going to be a little bit different. So if you're interested in exploring this technology with us, we would need to have a better understanding of your specific use case so that we can quote you accurately.
Thank you. I believe it's quite clear. And as I said, you already could imagine what if 500 installations is already done around the world. So this solution is already prepared to be deployed remotely, because it's very hard to believe that someone could go with computer to each of the clinics. So definitely I can warranty from our experience that it's very automated, very fast deploying solution, which you could easily add as a part for your solution.
Thank you. And I will add, if you have more questions, you can email directly to Dicom Systems or write to us if you have any questions, and we will answer you. So this is all the questions we got.
Renata, all registrants will receive the presentation, and we can find the contacts of Dicom System. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Please.
And please make sure you get our newsletters, because this presentation and link to video recording is going to go to your email you put in the registration form. And I like to invite you to the exhibition we're going to be in SIM in June. So please write us an email to find a suitable time for you, or just pass by our booth.
And I also like to say what Dicom System will be also participating. You can find Dicom System if you come to us. Please stop by Dicom System and meet Florent too.
Very well.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for your very thoughtful questions and for your continued attention through these presentations that can be tedious sometimes. Hopefully, we made this entertaining for you.
Yes, so I'm sure it's always, we get very positive feedback. Again, Florent, thanks for your time. It was enjoyable to see your product, your progress, and also I hope some of our partners will find you and you will do good business together. So
thank you
thanks,
so very
everyone.
much.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Florent, for presentation, and see you our next events. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and have a nice day.
Thank
you very much, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day.